We got to double up. We got to do 2 months essentially worth of questions. There's some stragglers. We had one here which I missed on the last patron question. Which Trumpism has entered its way into your vocabulary? And probably the one that I do actually say quite a bit is many such cases. I think that's brilliant. I love saying that one, many such cases. That's one of my all-time go-tos of the Trumpisms. You know, just to drop that into everyday kind of conversation. Essentially, when you see, I use it almost sarcastically. Like, for example, when I'm talking about anomalies, I'm talking about things that aren't accurate. Or, you know, for instance, when I'm talking about my social group, like, you know, how they've all got kids now and they don't come out and don't drink anymore because they're being responsible family people. And, you know, someone will say, like, oh, Oliver's not coming out because he's got to look after the kids. And I'll chime in and go, many such cases. And there you go. And that's good. Sad is also another classic. I've tried to ease out the Bidenisms, as you've already wrecked me with the idea, to the point where I have, like, an actual fucking mental and verbal tick about that now. But many such cases, I think, just to say this, when we get free and clear of the immediate insanity of the Trump years, probably like, you know, 5 to 10 years from now, we're going to kind of look back. Trump might even be dead in 10 years, you know. We're going to kind of look back all of the kind of the quirkiness of this time period. And it was the past 10 years have been a deeply silly, hysterical time in American politics. Hopefully in 10 years, that will no longer be the case. And we'll be able to look back at some of the funniness that we did. Did come our way. You know, maybe having a man screaming, "They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats." Maybe that can be looked back at being like just a deeply silly and funny time in American politics, rather than, oh no, it's Hitler 2 Electric Boogaloo. I guess we'll have to wait and see. But anyway, I missed that one. So whoever that was, I apologize. Also, you may hear fireworks going off because on spooky Halloween night, which is obviously the day I'm recording this, on spooky Halloween night, people let off fireworks. We love fireworks in Birmingham. We just love it usually is fireworks. 99 times out of 100, the popping noise is fireworks. So we're going to power through and have background firework ambience ASMR patron questions. Is there any story you wish you could have confirmed, published earlier than you did, or some story you never got to publish altogether, but feel like it could have made some difference if you had the chance to? Obviously, this is a tough question. This is from Real Night Shift Hours. This is a tough one to kind of answer without like giving sort of too much away. There's definitely been stuff that I've investigated that like never went anywhere. Like I never got the smoking gun. I never got the piece of evidence. You know, like quite famously, I can tell you this one. A lot of people won't remember it. But there was a period of time where I got vent.exe, which was a private cheat that was designed to fit into a mouse memory. It was like, 158 kilobytes or whatever it was. And it had been designed specifically to create a low FOV aimbot that you could use at LAN. It had no UI component, and there was allegations of pro players using this cheat. I was able to leverage the sources I had in the Counter-Strike source, as it was seen then, and it had been coded in the Benelux scene, and I knew the Belgian players pretty well and a lot of the Dutch players, and so I was able to get a copy of the cheat, which we looked at. I had some other coders like look at it, like decompile it, however you want to phrase it, and then I sent it to Valve, and then Valve were able to detect it. They were able to put it into their VAC systems or whatever, and people started getting caught for using it. But there's one aspect to the story that I may have mentioned it once or twice in passing down the years, but a lot of people will remember the exposing vent.exe. What people won't remember is 6 months after I'd done it, I got talking to it was either one of the guys who coded it or one of the guys who decompiled it. I can't quite remember, but anyway, they were in the Benelux scene, and they said, "Did you ever get the list?" And I said, "What list?" And they said, "Did you ever get the list of the Steam accounts that used the cheat?" And I went, "Well, how would I get that?" And they went, "Well, the cheat was coded, so every time somebody installed it or used it on a Steam account, that Steam account number went to a file somewhere on the internet, like in a cloud, that the coder could access. And the coder's plan was at some point in the future to blackmail every pro that had the Steam account on that list. And I went, that sounds like bollocks, mate. That doesn't sound like something that's very fucking plausible at all. And so, anyway, I asked another one of the guys, and they went, no, that's really fucking plausible. That's super easy. And they demonstrated to me how it would be possible to do it, and blah, blah, blah. And, like, there you go. Like, you've used this cheat. This cheat goes here. We can see. It's actually really easy, Richard. And I went, okay. So then I went on some sort of Indiana Jones-style digital crusade to try and find where this fucking document was stored, because apparently somewhere out there was a list of every single account that had ever installed it, and it would have ended it once and for all the false allegations, all the allegations being made at people like Guardian and everything. And I was trying to hunt this shit down for ages. I mean, I was fucking asking every cheat coder I knew. I was getting people to go on cheat coder forums. I was like having it like decompile, looking at it, seeing if we could find where the document might be. Like, you know, it was wild. In the end, never got it. Never found it. The guy never blackmailed anyone. You know, so there was that. I did something similar around about when the vacuuming was happening. The vacuuming, for those that remember, is when, you know, a bunch of people got like vaxxed, and it included like SF, and everyone was like, oh shit. And then all of the coders, it might have been Supex and some other coders came out and said, listen, this is just the tip of the iceberg. All the pros are going to got, and we've got comprehensive lists of who's going to get vac because they use these cheats. And I was like, okay, cool, give it to me. I'll publish it. I don't give a fuck. Anyway, I did get one list, and they were like, don't publish it because, trust me, Valve, the VAC's definitely going to kick in. There's no way. These people 100% used it. And there was some household names on there, players you would have known. Anyway, nothing happened. And I was like, yeah, it's classic. One of the things you have to get your head around when you deal with cheat coders is they sell cheats to kids. They have to lie about the state of the game, and they love to lie about which super important and very professional clients that they have. But it's all bullshit. It's all nonsense by and large. So anyway, I kind of sat waiting for that to kick in. Nothing happened. Obviously, at that point, that was when some of the cheat coders that had predicted the vacuuming, they started saying, oh, Valve have pulled all of the pro players into a meeting saying they're getting a one-time amnesty to protect the integrity of the sport and keep the money-making machine running, and it's all one big conspiracy and everybody knows about it. It's like, nah, it's just total bullshit. It was just classic fucking wishful thinking. Everybody wanted Flusher to get got. Everyone wanted Olaf and Crims to get got. Remember, they didn't just accuse Flusher on Fnatic. They said they were all fucking doing it. So, nothing really came of that, but I was poised. I was ready. I always keep an open mind about stories as it relates and pertains to corruption, because it's generally my opinion that anything is possible given the propensity for human greed. So I was, that's where I was on that one, but nothing ever came of that. In terms of the other ones, there's definitely been bits and pieces. I think maybe I could have done more with the Riot allegations before they came out, thanks to the article by Cecilia D'Anastasia. Obviously, I'd vocally talked about it a lot. I'd said there are very bad things happening at that company. And the problem I had was too many people were telling me too many things in confidence at that time. And they were saying, if you ever say this publicly, it can literally only come from 5 people. And Riot will whittle it down very quickly. And so, and there were just too many stories like that. In retrospect, maybe I should have pushed a little bit harder on those people and tried to get them to go on background and just risk it, But so that's something I always kind of regret, even if we did get there in the end. I don't want to be like certain games journalists sitting on like terrible things and not doing anything about it because I might get to publish a book about it later. I generally, if I hear something and I can't publish the story, I'll still like back channel and try, if it's appropriate to do so, and try and get like a positive outcome. Like for example with sexual assault allegations behind the scenes. I make sure people that have relationships with either the victim, the accused, or whatever, within the grounds of permission, know about what's going on, because I think that's the only way you get these issues kind of fixed. So yeah, definitely some, but not too many. Generally, I pull the trigger if I've got enough, and that's always been the rule, no matter where the story takes me, no matter what the risks might be. Now, World's Best Feet Toucher asks, have you played Deadlock? If so, what are your thoughts as a MOBA enjoyer? I'll be honest, I've played Deadlock not a lot, but enough. And it doesn't scratch the same itch for me that Dota does yet. But I haven't necessarily, I still haven't played a full stack. Like, I still haven't queued up as a team with friends. I've like duo queued and things like this, but I've never played like a team-on-team, experience. So I don't know if that would necessarily change it. I can tell you a fun story. I'm sure he won't mind me repeating it. Slacks was telling me about how he quit Dota because, he would be like, everyone's a toxic animal and you become a toxic animal when you play Dota. Me and Slacks were hanging out in the green room at PGL Valahia, and he said, my game of choice now, brother, it's Deadlock. I've got hundreds of hours in it already. I love it. I'm really psyched to play it because it's fun. It's fun like Dota used to be fun. You're not playing the same game every time. And so Slack said he had come up with, there's a character, I can't remember the name of the character. As I said, I don't have a lot of hours in, but there's a character and it like launches a bird, and the bird screams, and it goes like, Wah! Every time you launch it. Someone will type the character name in chat and what the ability is. There it is. It's Grey Talon. That's the one. Anyway, so what Slacks had figured out you could do is if you just farmed and played a really passive game, you could buy all of the cooldown reduction builds and items from the shop, and he figured out a way to essentially get this bird to launch every like 6 seconds or whatever it is. And the problem is every time you launch this bird, it just goes Wah! Like every time you do it. And he just figured out that like, and everybody in the game can hear it. So he was like, what he considers fun is when he wins a game because everyone disconnects because the game is so unbearable to play. That's what Slacks considers a victory in his world. And this is why he was like a techies player, He just used to love to break people mentally. Like, for instance, he told me another thing about how when it was late at night, he would sneak down. He would like, get out from bed. We've all had to do this. The wife's in bed. He would get out from bed and sneak down for one late night game. But he knew at that time in NA, people were like coming back from like a night out or whatever, or they were getting one last game before they had work in the morning, and they just wanted a quick game. So what he would do is he would go into like turbo queue or whatever, and he would pick techies, and I'm talking about old school techies, right? And so he would stall out a game where they had gone in, right, to fucking, just have a quick 20-minute blast of Dota before bed, and he would drag out the fucking game for as long as possible, just so those people would have to disconnect and get an abandon. So that was how he would roll. Slacks is fucking a stone cold agent of chaos. So I love him. Like, I absolutely love Slacks. He's great. So anyway, no, I haven't played a lot of Deadlock. Me and Slacks are talking about maybe getting some Deadlock games together. Obviously, that's going to be tough. I think we've got a bunch of events coming up. But, we'll try and make it work. I do have a very strong affinity to all of those Dota guys. Even after just working one event, they were all so cool and so nice and so much fun to hang out with, and very open and warm, and looking forward to spending more time with them. So, right, next up, who would be on your UK Mount Rushmore of comedians? So UK comedians only. Right, I did actually some research for this, and I was like having a think about what it would be for me. So, and this is tough because Mount Rushmore has 4, right? You're only allowed 4 heads. So I think the first one, and this is like, it goes without saying, Billy Connolly. I've already talked about Billy Connolly before. Just a fantastically talented comedian. Started out as like a folk singer, obviously, and he used to tell jokes in between his banjo playing to sort of break up the set. But yeah, Billy Connolly has to be on there. He's like probably one of the guys that, like, when I wanted to be a comedian, he was like one of the guys that I would like emulate. His sort of conversational style, the never-ending cul-de-sacs, which he always did from like even very early on in his performing career. But also, I think just being there's a type of comedian that's just so at ease with the crowd, and Billy Connolly is that guy. Like, Billy Connolly can just like he's got all the time in the world to tell his jokes. He makes it seem effortless. One of the things that's really hard in stand-up comedy is to like earn a silence, is to like earn a break, because what the audience want is they want you to be going all the time, and it's like you have to give them a big laugh to sort of get a lull where they want to have a rest as well, and you can just sit there and kind of sweep your hair back if you had hair, not me obviously, have a think and decide where you want to go next in the set. And so he was like he was a master at that. Bill Hicks was really good at that too. Bill Hicks could literally just pace on a stage in total silence and people were hanging on what he was going to say next. But I just love Billy Connolly. A lot of his jokes. He was one of the few comedians that I could appreciate getting away with puerile humor. Like, he would tell a lot of jokes about like poo and wee and willies and condoms, and it's very puerile and juvenile, but it's told in a very like articulate, erudite, and very true to life kind of way. What I always liked about Billy Connolly was he was clearly a lot higher than his station in life, but he always was very down-to-earth, working-class comedian. And obviously, I think he's also battled his, Parkinson's with real grace and sort of dignity. He's still creating content now in his late 70s, and he's just a godhead of British comedy. So he's on there absolutely for me. I mean, he's on there just as a stand-up. That's before you get into the writing, the musical numbers, everything else. Next up, probably you have to put one of the Pythons on there. And and that's for a variety of reasons. Now, most people might be tempted to go John Cleese, because obviously then you get Faulty Towers as well, and all the other stuff that he's done. I could just as easily break the other way and go for like Eric Idle. I think what you have to remember about what they did as a collective is it wasn't just the surrealist comedy show with all of the iconic sketches, which hilariously, some of you guys might not remember this, but they did a tour of America, this very quintessentially British comedy. And they went and did a tour of America. Quite famously, there's the live concert at the Hollywood Bowl, and they did all of their bits. And Americans aren't laughing at the surrealist nature of the humor; they are just laughing at the catchphrases. Which I thought was fucking, it's kind of, you could tell that they wanted to get it but didn't get it. You could tell that this was like at a time culturally when a lot of British stuff had real export in American culture. Like Lord of the Rings as well was like super fucking popular for some reason in the 70s as well. Things like that. And so, yeah, I think probably I would go for Eric Idle, just based on some of the other projects he did, some of the writing. If I remember quite rightly, I think he was the biggest writing credit on Life of Brian, which is their best film. Graham Chapman was the other fucking legend. R.I.P. Chappers. It's very hard to separate them as well. Don't know, it's tough. But yeah, maybe Eric Idle, maybe John Cleese, one of the Pythons. Generic Python face there, because I have a massive soft spot for Graham Chapman too as well, actually. Graham Chapman was the one who, I believe he died of AIDS, if I remember rightly. So, yeah, you have to put a Python on the list. So take your pick there. Then the next one, I would say Peter Cook. Peter Cook isn't going to be a very popular pick with a lot of you. A lot of you might not have seen a lot of his work. Peter Cook is the modernization of British political comedy. Obviously, quite famously, had his partnership with Dudley Moore, where they used to do some pretty far out there fucking sketches, the Derek and Clive stuff. But I mean, like, he had a real. He was kind of like a Lenny Bruce, I guess, if I had to compare him to anything, in the sense that he would sort of deconstruct institutions and conventions and poke fun at their inherent absurdity. But he was like just a really, really ahead of his time comedian that I don't think got the respect that he deserved in his lifetime, actually. And he pops up in some very interesting places. Like, for example, he might have been the voice of Roger Melly. If you know Viz, the Viz comics, they had a guy called Roger Melly, the man on the telly. That was one of the comic book characters. Viz was basically a scatological comic book of like really sort of larger than life characters that were all like sexist, or I mean, most of them were sexist. They literally had a character called Sid the Sexist. But anyway, so they did that. And then obviously probably as a final entry, it's for me going to be Chris Morris. Chris Morris's satire is probably some of the best satirical content ever produced anywhere in the modern era. It's not just British. What I like about Chris Morris is he has an understanding of of American culture. And for example, if you've ever seen the pedophile Brass Eye special that he did, which was sort of making fun of the media scaremongering about pedophiles are everywhere, which was pioneered by the British tabloids, particularly the News of the World. One of the things that was super interesting there was he also understood how American media were presented thing, and in a fake commercial he created a fake American TV show called The Pedophiles, and it was PEDO hyphen files, and the character in it is and then I realized I started having designs on my own children, so I shot myself in the head. I killed the pedophile in me, and now I bring justice to those that have chosen the way of the animal. And it's so fucking hilarious and so on the nose about American reality TV as it was trending at that time that it's absolute genius. And for me, even some of his later stuff, I mean, Four Lions is fucking fantastic. I don't think there's been a better dissection of the double-ended tragedy of radicalizing people via religious extremism. It's really smart and prescient and funny. And that's the key thing. At no point does Chris Morris's satire give way to preaching at you. It never becomes a sermon. It always just makes you think and is really, really funny and very often offensive, but offensive and funny. And so, yeah, that would be my kind of Mount Rushmore. Obviously, I understand you can put Ronnie Barker on there. Of course you can. Who else? You probably Spike Milligan could go on there, right? Probably a bunch of people could go on there in any of the places of any of the people I picked. But basically, for me, that would be my personal Mount Rushmore for British comedy, I think. And trust me, very hard to leave Stuart Lee off there, who I adore. But I think you can make an argument to say that he's niche. And I love all of Armando Iannucci's stuff as well. Obviously, The Thick of It, but even before that, what was it, the Friday Night Armistice or whatever it was called? He contributed to the Day-to-Day as well. It's just, personal tastes. And when you only get to pick 4, that's it. So, right, what's next up? This is from Peppermint. During your life, you have visited many countries and presumably, ate many different dishes. So my question is, which country's cuisine was the most disappointing? Not straight up bad, but a real letdown. Definitely wasn't Thailand. Definitely wasn't Japan. That all fucking banged. Oh, there you go. India. India was very disappointing. Why was India disappointing? It's not because the food's bad. It's because you really can't risk eating any of it, depending on where you are. I mean, I've been to, obviously, Goa, and I ate food there. You know, I ate street food there. I certainly wasn't doing that in Mumbai. You know, so, yeah, you get some incredible Indian food where I live in Birmingham. I mean, insane. I think we have a Michelin star Indian restaurant over in the Jewellery Quarter, whose name I can't remember, but I've eaten there a few times. And they specialise, I believe it might actually be Goan cuisine, because there's a lot of like fish on the menu and what have you. But anyway, Indian food is absolutely banging. It is one of the most underrated foods in the world, especially because Americans don't seem to like it. There was a meme in the 90s where Indian and Pakistani food were associated with food poisoning in America. And that was like why people, and even in The Sopranos in season 1, where he gets sick, they blame it on the ghee and they're going, oh, a rancid hit of clarified butter will sort you out, Tony, and all that stuff. So in Birmingham, you get real Indian food, traditionally Indian food, and Indian food bangs. It slaps. You can go anywhere with Indian food. There is a dish for every occasion, for every palate, whether it's hot and sour, sweet and sour, unbelievably burn your face off hot, unbelievably creamy to the sweet. Fruit curries, fucking fruit curries, dry tandoor barbecue. It's fucking insane. The variety is insane. So, you know, look, that's the one. Opheen in Birmingham, 2 Michelin stars. It's a fucking banger. You have to book well in advance, if memory serves me correct. But if you get a chance to eat there, definitely do. It lives up to the hype. So, look, unfortunately, when I went to India, this isn't to be disparaging about people out there. A lot of people live in poverty, and it's not their fault that food hygiene standards kind of fall by the wayside. But certainly, it became abundantly clear to me that as already having the shits, probably you are going to knock this up a notch if you actually eat any of this stuff. And it smelt great. But you know, I had to make good choices, so I just wasn't doubled up, you know, with amoebic dysentery for the rest of the trip. So unfortunately, it disappointed me. If I ever got a more robust digestive system to the point where I could like just live in India and drink Indian water and eat Indian food, because I've got friends from India who, like, you know, they go out there to visit their families, like, you know, they're British, but obviously they're historically from India, and they go out there to see family members, and they say, look, it takes like a week or two, then we like acclimatize to everything, and we're just fine. We can eat everything and drink everything. It's just like you're just being exposed to different stuff out there. That appears to be a phenomenon. I obviously just haven't got that in me. So it was a shame. But it's a beautiful country with super nice, generous people out there. Right, another one here. What was your favourite historical period growing up, and that changed as an adult? That's a good question, actually. I feel like when you're a kid, you do dial in, don't you, on like one historical period. And for me, it was easily ancient Greece. Easily ancient Greece. I used to love all that shit as a kid. In fact, hang on, wait there. When I was growing up, I had a obviously pretty spread out, fucked up family. I was blessed to have lots of essentially extended families. Like, you know, you've got aunties and uncles that aren't actually related to you. You know, they're not your brothers and sisters of your mother or your father. I had a lot of those growing up, and one of them was my auntie. It would have been Carol, I believe, and I barely saw them growing up. But every year they would get me the best birthday present imaginable. Like, it was just every time, like, they would get me a super cool board game that would just be like blow me away, or they would get me a book that would just like, wow, I didn't even know I liked this. And when I was a kid, they got me a book, the Usborne Book of Greek and Norse Legends, and that book always stayed with me. I read it cover to cover to cover, all about Greek and Norse, but particularly the Greek appealed. I like the Norse, don't get me wrong, but it all gets a bit silly, actually, doesn't it, sometimes? Like, Thor at a wedding, and Loki's, like, replaced the bride with a troll and all this stuff. Whatever. Anyway, obviously, over time, I lost the book. And I had one of those memories that you have where, when you have a memory and it's locked and then something happens in your life and it gets unlocked and you remember, oh, shit, I fucking had that book. And so I tracked it down. And I bought a copy of it. The Usborne book of Greek and Norse legends. This book is beautiful. Like, if you have kids and you want to get them into this stuff, actually track down a copy of this, because what it does a great job of doing is it anchors the myths, which it's going to tell you with beautiful illustrations, into the society of the time. So there's your map of what ancient Greece looked like. You can see there's your boy. He's Poseidon, just having a fucking swim. Anyway, it tells you all about the religion, then all about the foundational myths, and then this is when it gets to the fucking good shit. Like, look at these fucking pictures, guys. Like, that is the Titans having their fight. That's like Pluto and someone else, probably Zeus, the young upstart. This is what the map looked like. This is, so there's like hell and the frozen plains, and there's like, whatever those fucking fields are called and all this, right? Personal favorite page here, Zeus's lovers. And it's just all the times he just fucking turned himself into an animal to fuck people. It's actually insane that this is just there for kids, right? And anyway, it's got the full thing. Like, this, I love this as well. Theseus and the Minotaur, that illustration. It's just fucking unbelievably beautiful. And the Trojan War, it tells you all about the importance of the Trojan War and how that segues in with the adventures of Odysseus. But then this is the shit that separates the nerds from the fucking turbo nerds. And it is a who's who in all of Greek mythology. And it's just written out, like, no illustrations or barely any, tiny little drawings. It tells you every major character. There's pages of this, dozens of pages, just all the major people in that. And obviously it does Norse as well, as I said. Not as good, although the illustrations are still fantastic. That's Thor throwing his hammer at a giant there. So anyway, I tracked down a copy of that book just to, like, reconnect with my childhood, because I fucking loved Greek mythology. I loved all of the movies, Clash of the Titans and Jason and the Argonauts. I loved all that shit. Loved all of the stories, all of that. And then I got into the history. I loved reading about, kind of all of the different city-states and how politics in ancient Greece worked. So I was really into that shit. I was really, really into that shit. And then it's like one of those things where it's like you just sort of grow out of it, or you just don't do it anymore. You just don't have time. Suddenly American politics was kind of taking up more and more of my time, and I didn't read a lot of the classics anymore. But anyway, again, to any parents in the chat, that book changed my childhood for the better, 100%. It was, it's inspirational, it's engaging, it's educational, it's fun. It does have 2 pages about Zeus turning himself into bulls and swans to fuck strangers, which you might have to, explain that things are different when you are Zeus, I guess. But other than that, it's very age appropriate. I must have picked that up 9, 10, I want to say, maybe a bit younger. And as I said, that was very good for a very bookish child. So yeah, that sort of answered the question. And there's also a really cool book that any kid would adore and read cover to cover. A Supremely Censored says, how would you compare cheap candy from the US to the same price candy in Europe? And is there a favourite you'd recommend from either for people to try if they travel across the pond? I don't eat a lot of candy, despite appearances. I don't have a particular sweet tooth. What I would say is American candy is generally elite. The only thing that comes close is Haribo, and Haribo is fucking, I mean, we all know about Haribo, and even that's a lottery. Like, having just been in Finland, I want to say straight out the gate, like, too much licorice. They're obsessed with licorice. It's rancid. Licorice is in everything. Even when we were doing the esports event, we were getting like candy drops being brought up, and it was just licorice and everything. Like, for me, you've got to have what's the name of that chemical they put in it? That acid. You know what I mean? That makes it taste sour artificially. It's got to have that in it. Any Haribo, like the Fantastics, right? It's not citric. It's got a particular word. It's not citric. There's a specific chemical that makes things taste sour when they don't. I can't remember what it's called. So I like them. I like the Fantastics. It's not ammonium. It's not AIDS. No. Someone will Google it and find it and type it in the chat. You always do. Everyone. It probably is malic acid. There you go. See, just enough for you all to Google it, and then we've all figured it out. Haha, we are considerably smarter than you. Or it could be fumaric or turmeric. I don't know. Anyway, irrelevant. That shit, right? If it's got that shit in, it fucking bangs. It slaps. So, love that. Love the fried eggs, the little fried eggs that Haribo do. Love them. If it's gummy, like, fizzy colas, can do all that. But in general, I think, like, as I've said many, many times, the old school US Willy Wonka's nerds, those sour apple flavor nerds, they're the killer. That's the ultimate candy. That is just like anything you want from a candy distilled down to its purest essence. USA clears. European candy sucks. Licorice sucks. Fuck Finland. Fuck Finland for giving me a cold. Next question. JW001. I have another music one for you. What are your opinions on Manchester bands such as The Fall, Happy Mondays, New Order, Oasis? Okay, well, so a couple of things right out of the gate. Me and Duncan have an existential different. Like, a lot of people think, oh, you and Duncan, you're so similar, because you do all those events together and you get along, and you created all this content down the years, and you seem to have this like understanding when you do desks together and what have you. So obviously you must like all the same things. Well, Duncan is a huge Oasis fan. He loves Oasis. I hate Oasis. I think Oasis are shit, in fact. I go that far. I remember one time me and Duncan had a pretty, I don't want to say it was an argument, because that's really overselling it, because I guess we just don't care enough about it. But, I mean, I remember somebody asked us, like, who's the better band, Oasis or Radiohead? And I just said, well, this is easy, because it's objectively Radiohead, right? I mean, it's not even close. Like... And then Duncan was like, What? But what about all the anthems? Go on then. Sing me a Radiohead song now. You can't even do it. But I'm going to live forever. And so he believes that the anthemic... And listen, I understand Oasis are very much of their time. They do represent this new musical movement that was happening. I can understand why someone would be a fan of Oasis. But for me, they were just taking Mark Bolan and Beatles riffs, putting a modern British sensibility on them, and essentially selling a very tawdry, like, rock and roll lifestyle that probably wasn't even accurate or realistic to them. Now, listen... Radiohead, I totally understand why people, if you only listen to, like, Creep, which was one of the most massively overplayed singles of all time, I can understand why you would hate Radiohead or hate that opinion. But, some of Radiohead, like, the run of albums they had with the Bends into OK Computer and Kid A, I mean, musically, they're on another planet compared to Oasis. So, it's always going to be Radiohead for me, and I actually listen to Radiohead still to this day. I certainly don't listen to Oasis, but that's fine, because they're ubiquitous and played everywhere. So, there's that. I love The Fall, obviously... Saw The Fall a few times. They used to be at all the festivals. They would be the opening act, usually on a lot of the early stages. So, love all of them. I'll tell you this, not a Happy Mondays fan either. Didn't really vibe with that. Like this, feel good, at all, at all costs. For me, the stuff I liked from the Britpop era and the Manchester bands specifically. Let me get a list of all the Manchester bands, and I will tell you which ones I actually liked. I mean, it goes without saying, the Stone Roses, right? Obviously, you have to like the Stone Roses. Fucking, we all know the songs. I never liked the Smiths. I also want to say as well, I didn't really fuck with New Order, although I do fuck with Joy Division. Again, I don't know if this is like contentious, because a lot of people are like, well, actually, New Order got better once Ian Curtis hung himself, and I think that's fucking blasphemy. The Smiths, I mean, me and Henry have this argument all the time. Henry's like a massive Smiths fan. I don't like them. I do like The Cure, if they count as sort of a Britpop thing band, but they were around a bit longer, I guess. But I like The Cure. I think the album they did, Faith, is fucking fantastic. That's like an absolute banger. And I like sad early to mid 80s Cure. I don't even like fake upbeat late stage Cure. I like maudlin miserable Cure. That's where I'm at. That's when they're at their best. Lost in a Forest, that was a good one. Faith and everything off Faith, all good. But yeah, I prefer Joy Division to New Order. I love Joy Division. Listen to them regularly still. Who else did I like that came out from that time period that maybe would stand out a little bit? Yeah, Echo and the Bunnymen, they're good. Although they've got a pretty limited catalogue in my opinion. I'm looking. I'm trying to think of all the ones that I went to see, because obviously, fuck the Verve. And I liked In Spiral Carpets at the time. I must have seen In Spiral Carpets a bunch, but fuck the Verve. I mean, yeah, it was a weird time for me, because musically I was more into, this is when I was getting into like grunge, and Britpop just didn't really touch me in the same way it touched a lot of kids. Like, that sounds terrible, doesn't it? It touched a lot of kids of my generation. Are we talking about Britpop or Jimmy Savile? Who knows? We're talking about Britpop. Anyway, definitely Britpop. So yeah, it just didn't get me. It didn't get me. Jimmy Savile didn't get me. Britpop didn't get me. Didn't get me, because I was into grunge by that point. Hip hop was, we were coming out of the gangster rap era, hip hop was becoming, with the advent of like import CDs and everything, black American music was becoming more accessible to white middle class UK kids, like sort of probably thanks to the success of albums like Black Sunday by Cypress Hill and stuff like that. And so that's what I was into. I wasn't really into, any of the other stuff, like the Britpop. I mean, but the problem was, if you wanted to see a gig, you had to go out and you had to see these bands, because that's what was touring in your neighborhood, and that's how you end up at like a fucking Shed 7 fucking concert in the fucking Middlesbrough Arena at 2 a.m., and other terrible things that can happen to you. But yeah, ultimately for me, it wasn't a movement that reached out. I like just went a strange musical route, because I went from rave, rave into grunge. And I was like, don't really care about any of this other stuff that's going on. It kind of went, it kind of went rave, metal, grunge, hip-hop on the side. That was kind of like what my musical map was. It didn't make a lot of sense, but, I really liked rave. As crazy as that sounds. So, yeah, Britpop just wasn't it for me. Jester, a few months ago, I asked, what was the most disappointing game you've played? What is the biggest surprise gem you've ever played? Fuck me, what a question. The biggest ever surprise gem. A game that surprised me. Right, well, listen. Tell you an unrelated story. Because I was sick, I've had the Steam Deck out, and I was playing Shin Megami Tensei. Never beaten the weeb allegations, am I? Never beaten the secret weeb allegations. Shin Megami Tensei 5. And the protagonist is right? The protagonist was already a very androgynous main character. And then you morph with a dude who looks like fucking Logan from like, Wolverine. And you turn into a girl. But everyone calls you young man. It's like, is it the first ever femboy protagonist in a video game. I don't know. First one I've played as. Anyway, I like all the Persona games. So, yeah, there you go. Not beating the weeb allegations. And I've been enjoying that. And it was really good in a demented fever dream brought on by sickness. It's really actually excellent. A lot of fun. But definitely not the biggest gem of all time. What would it be? I'm going to have a look. I'm literally just going to quickly scan through here in my library, see if anything jogs my memory. I mean, I did like Banner Saga. Is the Banner Saga trilogy the greatest gem of all time? It's probably not, is it? Battle Brothers is a banger. Disco Elysium is a normie pick now. That's like a normie pick. Inscription was really good, and it definitely surprised me. Oh, I don't know. I'm just going to chuck a dart in a board. I will say, after everyone tried to make Slay the Spire, both Griftlands and Monster Train are great. They are the best Slay the Spire copycats. Into the Breach fucking bangs as well. That's an absolute fucking banger. I mean, yeah, maybe. Pick any of them. Obra Dinn bangs. But I knew it was going to bang. So, is it the best gem of all time? Don't know. Maybe not. Right, another question. This is Hassan Vancy, right? As a big fan of the famous and originator of his genre, political streamer Hassan Abi, I feel slightly concerned about his open and brazen promotion of Houthi and Hezbollah propaganda. But then I remembered that Dan Clancy, CEO of Twitch, is also a big fan of Hassan. My question is, why does Hassan's dreamy eyes let him get away with his TOS breaking behavior? Well, look. It's not his dreamy eyes. This has been the fundamental problem on Twitch for a long period of time, and that is that it's a deeply unserious place to talk about politics. You can't... Right, so I'm going to say something that's stunning and brave, right? So unbelievably stunning and brave. I think if you, as a content creator, are going to stream, 8-10 hours a day, and you're going to get hit up by people asking you to react to things that are happening in the news, and you're going to be put into a moment where you are going to react to something and you may clumsily articulate what you think and what you believe. I think it is ridiculous to then be uncharitable and say, oh, they clumsily articulated what they think and believe in a heat of the moment reaction. We need to punish them. We need to ban them. We need to remove them. And one of the things that I've got really sick of happening on Twitch is streamer said something like, and it'll be, I don't like this group and think bad things should happen to that group predicated on X, Y, and Z. And people go, oh my God, that's one of the oppressed groups on this totem pole. You can't say that about that group. But then somebody will say, haha, I hate this group and want terrible things to happen to that group. And actually, that would be pretty based if terrible things happen to that group. And then they check the fucking hierarchy totem pole and they go, okay, well, they're at the top. So, yeah, you can say that about them. I don't think that's sustainable. I don't think that's fair. And I think if you want to have genuine political discourse, you have to enable people to be able to say something stupid in the heat of the moment and then either walk it back, revise it, recant it. I just don't think you turn those ones off because totem pole here, and you don't turn those ones off totem pole there. What it ends up creating, unfortunately, is you end up with one side of the aisle walking on eggshells, not wanting to express any political thought whatsoever. I believe they call this a chilling effect. And then meanwhile, if you go over to the other side and you let them get away with it, for instance, like that Twitch panel where they literally had a fucking rating people from Arab good to Jewish bad, using a code word of a type of hummus, which also happens to be a word that describes people that are native and born in Israel. If you allow that group to, those individuals to get away with doing things like that, that creates this sneering confidence that they can get away with it. So you've chilled one half of the aisle, you've empowered the other half. Well, what do you think happens in an environment like that? And so an environment like that ends up with one side become more and more emboldened to say outrageous things. No one pushes back on them, and anyone who actually does say anything is given these very extreme moderation decisions handed down for them. So it's got nothing to do with having dreamy eyes and everything to do with the fact that Hassan is not just the #1 politics streamer on Twitch, but he is one of the #1 streamers on Twitch. He has mainstream connections, mainstream approval, mainstream interest. People watch his streams, people talk about his streams in the media. He makes a lot of money for Twitch, and also he acts as some sort of, because remember, lefties are good even when they say terrible, vile, anti-Semitic things. That's what American liberalism has sort of arrived at as a conclusion now, that if you walk around with a tiki torch, you know, saying something anti-Semitic, and you've got a MAGA hat on, that is an existential crisis. But if you say it and you're wearing a keffiyeh, that's fine. So, you know, that's where we've arrived at in US society at the moment. I don't think that's sustainable, fair, or reasonable. But nominally, Hassan's opinions are the good opinions. So, at a time when everyone is saying, oh, the internet's radicalizing people, all these young men are falling down right-wing rabbit holes and they're coming out the other side radicalized as Nazis, etc., etc. To have the #1 politics streamer be very left-leaning is actually very good for Twitch. It gives them cultural capital. It lets them say, oh, we're not a radicalizing platform. Look, our #1 politics streamer is a good guy. It's not Nick Fuentes. Spoiler. Some of the things being said on that channel and some of the orbiters compared to Nick Fuentes, you should all go for a dinner party. You'd actually find that you've got worryingly a lot in common. I'll also add another thing that's been allowed to kind of foment is, remember dog whistles? Do you remember them? You remember how the American left in academia spent the last 10, 15 years essentially constructing a set of rules which were designed to catch invisible boogeymen that only the super smart liberal academics could see? And we had microaggressions, and we had dog whistles, and all of these other things which are just patent nonsense. And so anyway, a dog whistle, by the way, I can understand how theoretically it makes sense, because let's say that I was a head of an extremist group, and I had clandestine sleeper cells out there that I wanted to activate or let them know this is a safe environment to discuss our, coded evil things. I would need to put out a certain type of language. This is kind of typical, right? This is one of those things that happens. But what the kind of progressive academia world says is a dog whistle is meant to be something you would only know if you were in the extremist group. And when I say it, it's like a wink, ha 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 ha, and only those in the know would hear it. But the American progressive academic, they know. They can hear. They're not only the dog in this, they can hear it like the dogs. They're the good dog, you're the bad dog, but they can hear the whistles. But not only can they hear the whistles, they dictate what the whistles are, what the whistles mean, how severe those whistles are, how long it lasts for. They get to dictate all of that as well, which is kind of interesting. It's almost like you just want to control language and be able to point to someone and go, you're a Nazi, you're a racist, you're a bigot. Yeah, that's the game. It's been the game for 15 years. It's been a race to occupy cultural territory, ultimately, so you can exercise control over people as a result for it. And lefty academics have been better at it than chuddy conservatives. Chuddy conservatives prioritised video games. Progressive lefties prioritised universities. Guess who won the culture war on that one? So anyway, that's another aspect to this that you have to be very mindful about, and that is that they all of these dog whistles that are supposedly out there, like Pepe was a dog whistle, this is a dog whistle, these are all dog whistles, all of a sudden now using the term Zionist, which they use interchangeably with Jewish people, for Jewish people, they say Zionist and it suddenly becomes okay, because believing in believing in Israel's right to defend itself or something is such an anathema. No one would ever defend a Zionist. So what they've been doing is, and quite literally, they just, anytime you want to insult a Jewish person, berate a Jewish person, be anti-Semitic, you just use the word Zionist, and it's a catch-all. Now, isn't that a dog whistle? Aren't you the super smart lefty academics that know about dog whistles? That's a dog whistle. I'm telling you, that's a dog whistle. That's exactly what they're doing. Go get them. Go get them. Oh, no. Sorry, you agree with those dog whistles. My bad. My bad. Sorry, you're the professor in microaggressions and dog whistles from dog shit university that's been telling Jews they're not allowed on campus while you're wearing a keffiyeh. My bad. Sorry, you're the people literally advocating for Hamas on October 7th. My bad. Sorry, I thought you actually cared about bigotry in America. My bad. So anyway, all of that's going on. Which is to say, how does he get away with the TOS? He explicitly gets away with the TOS because, first of all, the ways he breaks TOS are a literal extension of the enforcement apparatus's own personal beliefs. That I would argue most American lefties now are anti-Israel. I mean, the progressive left. I'm not talking about like the Bill Maher liberal or whatever. But also, when you have the CEO at a company literally advocating for your content and putting you on the front page, that is an endorsement that, let's say I did work for the Trust and Safety Council. I'm not gonna ban Hassan when my boss is a huge fan of him, can overturn the ban, and fire me. Yeah, that doesn't seem tenable at all. So there's a lot of issues. I mean, look, I'm going to end up interwoven in all of this bullshit because I'm going to write some articles about the things that are going on at Twitch right now. But just to say right out the gate, if you were to ask me, do I believe there's an anti-Semitism issue at Twitch right now in terms of its content? Yes, absolutely. I think what the things that Frogan individual has said are unconscionable. Even if we were to believe the premise that she puts forward that she's personally affected by this and therefore it's a much more emotive issue for her, right? Even if we were to accept that on face value, it wouldn't excuse some of the content that has come out and some of the things that have happened. But equally, one thing that we should be able to agree on is when the number one political streamer on Twitch platforms a literal terrorist, a member of a terrorist organization that is engaged in murder and rape, right? I think at that point we should be all in agreement that that seems to be a violation of what Twitch is for and what the rules should be for. So to be clear, I, as a journalist, if I wanted to interview, there's two ways this can go. If I wanted to bring on, let's say, for instance, a right-wing white supremacist terrorist and interview them on my channel to ask them questions and push back on some of their beliefs and ideas, if I did that, I'd be banned. I'd be 100% banned, even though journalists interview deplorable people all of the time. I mean, journalists interviewed bin Laden, right? Although, again, these days, if he was still around, he'd probably turn up on Hassan's channel and it would all be fine. But if I were to do that, even from a journalistic standpoint, I would be told I'm platforming hate. I am giving them a platform to spread their racist ideas, and therefore I am complicit in their racism, and I would be banned permanently. And I would not only be banned permanently, my name would be in the media, and I would be like a bigot, and I would have done all this. Wouldn't have mattered what the questions were. Wouldn't have mattered what the content of the interview was. Why are you platforming hate? Okay then, right, well, those are the rules, Twitch. I understand. And then you go over to Hassan's channel. Do you like One Piece? Do you like anime? Oh, I'm sure he didn't do any of the... Look, he's only 22 or something. He's too young to have been involved in a murder, for sure. Don't worry about it. And it's like, well, this is very clear and obviously a violation of TOS. And the thing that always worries me about this stuff is there is going to be... And by the way, I think this about some political streamers I like as well. They don't do a good job of keeping their more radical aspects in check. So for total balance, because I'm always fair, I didn't like it when other content creators started saying maybe it's not a bad thing if conservatives in America die if they attend Trump rallies. No, that's garbage. If you start saying that to your audience, it's only going to take one mentally unstable person to go and follow through on that. And when it does, it will be very much on your hands, right? And then at the other end, if somebody is, saying, ha ha ha, yeah, death to the Zionists, we've got to resist, there's going to be someone, look at that dude who self-immolated. Do you reckon he ever watched Hassan? I'll have a bet on that. I'll have a bet that he watched Hassan's streams. And you've got this mentally ill fucking guy going out burning himself to death. And all that came of that, by the way. Did Israel stop? Did Hamas stop? Did the American government stop? Did anything change? No. All that came out of that was he got told, you can't use the term rest in power because you're white, and rest in power is for black people. And so even in death, he couldn't even serve the progressive shit lib cause. So that's all that achieved. Well, at least we learned that lesson, right? Don't ever fuck up your rest in powers, guys. So it's just, I can see very clearly how these types of behaviors are going to lead to bad outcomes. It's going to lead to somebody taking up arms or harming themselves or harming other people, and it's all going to be in the name of, it's okay because my side's good. And that's not good. That's not a good place to be in. So I hope Dan Clancy gets his head round it very soon. Hassan, as of today, there's been a letter from a congressman called Richie Torres who's gone out there demanding that Dan Clancy explains why Hassan hasn't been moderated. And Hassan has deleted the last 2 months of his VODs, which, if I didn't know better, could be an attempt to cover something up. Seems a bit weird, but there you go. That's kind of where they are. Oh, and I'm being told apparently he brought them back. I guess they were took down temporarily while they scanned them for something. But anyway, there you go. This is Jerky. Now that you are also doing Dota 2 events, will you gift us more Dota 2 gameplay streams? Just despite the Dota 2 ranting gremlins on Reddit to show you can actually play the game unlike them. I probably wouldn't stream Dota. The problem you've got is with that, the Dota community are even more unwell than the CS community. Like, if I streamed a game and I had, like, I don't know, below 10k fucking CS, whatever the fuck it's called, Premier, right? People would say, oh, how can he work in CS? Look, he's bad at the game, I always love it as well, because it's like, the premise behind that is whoever they think is the best analyst in the world, or the best mind, or even the best player. So let's say, I don't know, this is a bit dark, but let's say a player, an amazing, talented player, was in a terrible accident. They got paralyzed, in a fall, right? And then because their arms were fucked up, right? And they couldn't move their legs or anything, and they were playing with like a straw, doing that, right? Well, guess what? They're shit now at the game. I mean, they're amazing for someone who can't move their arms and legs, but so their opinion now doesn't count about the game. By the way, according to Reddit, their opinion doesn't count about the game. They know nothing about the game. So just putting that out there. That's what they actually believe. So, yeah, that seems absurd. But they're even more stupid about that in Dota. They are more stupid about that. More importantly, behavior score and communication score are more... they're more obsessed with that. Like, you wouldn't believe. So, when you watch me play, you are going to see a man that cannot type or talk on the mic. You are going to... And you are going to see that little grayed out padlock, right? He's never... It's been 200 games now. I'm never getting it back. It's fine. It's for the best. It's for the best for everyone. And listen, as soon as I get back up to... Even after 300 games or whatever, as soon as my mic switches back on, the first thing I'm going to say is, get out the jungle, you fucking cunt. Push your fucking lane. And it's just going to go back, so it's fine. Like... The gameplay, unfortunately, because I'm going to be working the events, the gameplay is probably not going to be streamed because they'll start emailing PGL and demanding that I don't get hired and everything else. They'll actually do that. Carve, I hope I can speak for everyone when I say we have all enjoyed the Christmas Football Manager streams over the years, from Victor Fundy banging them in for Gateshead, the journey through the Ugandan lower leagues in most recent memory. Taking a club with no prospects, awful football, bad recruitment, and a decrepit stadium to the top is the very essence of the game. With the release of the new game engine for FM25, is it time for the greatest, most difficult challenge of them all by making Man United great again? Hopefully, Eric Ten Hag is still in a job by the time this is read out. Well, he's not, is he? He's been fucked. Tomorrow on the stream, I'm going to talk about how, FM bros, I don't feel so good. Never been so many problems with FM25 and the build up to it, and everything they've said around FM25 gives me like no confidence that FM25 is gonna be good. I'm gonna say some things that might sound chuddy on the surface. Hear me out, okay? I think, nominally, it is a good idea that we're going to have women's football, women's leagues, women's players, and all that in the game. However, it appears to have massively set back the development of other areas of the game. And that includes, they said for FM25, there won't be any international management. So, to be clear, we get the wonderful, exciting world of women's football, fine, but you can't be a manager of an international team anymore. That's as it stands based on their last statement. And I'm going to just say, look, listen, they play now. I think we all know I'm a progressive, right? They play now. But in terms of their justification for that was they said like less than 1% of the player base ever holds an international management job or something. They threw some insane stat out like that. Well, what percentage of the player base is going to want to manage in the women's leagues compared to managing the international leagues? So, so there's that. And obviously, look, I have no doubt that right now there's a video I could pull up where a chud content creator is going, no, you're gone woke, FM's gone woke, FM's woke, and now it's broke, and FM's woke. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, I used to like working my way up. I used to like working my way up to being the manager of an international team. Right? Yeah, exactly. It's coming soon to a Grums tweet. I used to like working my way up, but as a trade-off, I don't think that's great, personally. That's just my opinion. Maybe there's a whole new plethora of players waiting to play women's football for the first time and managing the women's leagues and everything that I'm not aware of. But there's that. There's also just the issue. There was another feature that's getting taken out entirely. I think it might be the shouts. The shouts were meant to get reworked, but what they've done now is they haven't had time to finish reworking them, so there's just not going to be shouts in FM25. So the shouts, as in the ones you do in game on the sidelines, which have never worked, they've never been a good feature, but they're taking them out. You can still fling a water bottle at your players and what have you. But yeah, they're scrapping. They said they were going to rework them for FM25. Now they're scrapping them and bringing them back at some point in the future. So once again, you're losing a feature. A broken feature, but you're still losing a feature. So yeah, listen, FM25, I'll probably be FM25 is not even going to be out for Christmas, so we'll be playing FM24, which by all accounts sounds pretty good. And I might even just show you guys. I'm on the precipice. I'm on the precipice of doing something insane. I have had a game going during this sickness where I've pumped in again on the Steam Deck, right? I've had a real good game. It wasn't like Peter Gammons. I put in my real name, my real face, right? I look like a ghost version of myself, but right? Put it all in, and I took over Darlington. Bang! I'm in the lowest that you can manage in the English League again. Vanarama Regional. I know you well. I see you know your judo well, right? So I took over at Darlington. Bang, promotion. I think I won a cup as well, some dog shit cup, whatever their equivalent trophy is. Next year, bang, promotion into the Football League. Then we got bought out, right? We got bought out. New chairman came in, and the chairman mugged me off in a meeting, right? Think about everything I've done. I've took Darlington back to the professional leagues by signing insane players like Jack Morehouse from Man United reserves, right? Absolutely killing it, right? The new chairman came in. I think it was just I wanted to get my continental license or something, wasn't it? And he said, I haven't got time for this now. Don't bother me unless it's something important. Right, well, I'm leaving. Fuck you. I'm leaving. Right? Fuck you. I'm out. After everything I've done to this club, I took it from fucking tears to fucking glory in a Ricardo Castro-esque surge. So, I was applying for every job. And the chairman was going, oh, well, want to stay now? Nah, you mugged me off, mate. Respect. It has to go both ways, right? You fucking mugged me off, mate. So I was applying for every job. Now, what I realised is winning 2 Vanoramas with Darlington isn't shit in world football. And I was applying for 3rd level J-League jobs, K-League jobs. I couldn't get anything. Couldn't get anything anywhere. Fortunately, St Mirren came in. Now, St Mirren were in the relegation zone of the Scottish Premier League, right? St Mirren. And they were like 10 points adrift from safety with half a season left to go. I came in, you know where we finished? 6th. No, 8th. It was 7th. I'll check. Anyway, we finished pretty much close to the top half of the league. Kept them up, right? So anyway, they're all over me. By the way, did it with all like young players, right? Fucking next season, I'm literally about to win the title. I'm so close. It can all go wrong. I got Hearts and Celtic in the last 2 games. I've got to get 4 points from those 2 games to be guaranteed or have results going my way. St Mirren winning their first ever Scottish Championship. Also, by the way, won the Viacom Cup, and I'm in the final of the Scottish Cup. I can do a domestic triple with St Mirren. Oh! And that's that. Then I'll have my pick of the jobs. So maybe this Christmas we just play Richard Lewis. Richard Lewis's dream job. What does a domestic triple with St Mirren really mean? That's what I want to know. Now, it can all go wrong. I'll put it this way. I'll have still won 2 trophies, probably. So, I think I've got Livingston in the cup final. I should fucking batter them. But we're going to see. And then it's like, well, once I'll be in the Champions League with St Mirren. Fuck me. That's a stream. That's a good stream. Everybody can enjoy that. So, yeah, I might just do that for Christmas, mate. We'll see. Frisky, what are your favourite and least favourite American fast food chains? Least favourite, super easy, McDonald's. Like, who cares? I'm over it. Fuck McDonald's. Like, put it this way, I would have no interest in McDonald's. I would Thanos McDonald's out of existence if it wasn't for the Big Mac. Low-key, unsung hero, Carl Jr.'s. They fucking slap. Love a Carl's. And Popeyes is kind of good still, though. But Chick-fil-A. Yeah, it's the bigoted hate. Listen, there's something just about their hateful nature. It's like, oh, yeah, bloody hell. Oh, you hate me because I'm bisexual. I can't quit you. You would execute me if you could get away with it. But your faux Christianity forbids you. More of that delicious chicken. Exactly. It's like a hate fuck, but it's dinner. So, there you go. All about that. Next. Mega Awesome Man. With TNT losing the broadcasting rights to the NBA, do you think we will see a Top Gear moment where the boys from inside the NBA move to Amazon? Should they, or will we see Charles Barkley retire to making churros for the women down in San Antonio? There's a serious component to this. It's like massive end of an era shit if inside the NBA, if that team is broken up, if the, Shaq, Charles Barkley, Ernie Johnson trio breaks up, it's going to be a tragedy, but it does look like they're going to basically not run it back anywhere else. There won't be a Top Gear moment. It sort of really had to be Turner or not at all. And I hope it's not true. Anything can change, particularly in like TV and entertainment. But yeah, it's fucking sad to think that iconic show, and funnily enough, an iconic show that's had more than a disproportionate amount of influence in esports, because that was the type of show we were trying to make for esports desks for years, even before we got to work with Turner. You know, one of the big draws of working with Turner was we knew we were going to be able to have that vibe because Turner had that vibe for the basketball. So it's going to be tough and sad, but I still hold out hope that it's not the end. That, you know, maybe it's like a 1-year hiatus, a 2-year hiatus, and that they're going to come back, or that they'll end up somewhere else. But for me, that should be one of that show is almost as important as the games at this point. No exaggeration, and it's devastating. I think we're gonna enter into a period of time without it. Jaden, Mr. Lewis, big dog, I hope you are doing well. With Guy Beam returning to YouTube, streaming and reapplying for the YouTube monetization program, that's not to disrespect, I've seen some questionable things. Hang on, I'm reading this off air. No. So, Mr. Lewis, I ask you, why are these guys defending and supporting him financially after he admitted it? I just don't get it. Well, super simple. They are in a cult of personality. And as I keep telling everyone, there's only one rule that really applies now universally. Everything else is up for debate. It's up for grabs. It's up for discussion as to whether it was ever real to begin with. But the one rule everybody lives by, it's okay when my team does it. And your team can be a political team. It can be a sports team. It can be an individual. It can be someone you have a parasocial relationship with. Ultimately, people are going to make excuses for the people they care about. And now, the people you care about, unfortunately, with like politics essentially replacing religion for a lot of American liberals, and Twitch creating just this fucking parasocial museum you can walk around and insert yourself into people's lives and become personally invested in people who don't know you exist and don't care beyond your fucking Twitch sub. By the way, give me a Twitch Prime, thanks. Saw that. Thank you, Ooga Booga Luga too. Appreciate it. Thanks for the Twitch Prime. So you defend your guy no matter what. I've seen it happen a lot. It's like Destiny subreddit right now is fucking embarrassing. It went into being like a Boomers for Biden Facebook page for a while, where they were all adamant Biden's brain wasn't mush and he should totally stick around because he would totally win the election because he was totally the best person to beat Trump, right? And then it was like as soon as we had to accept the reality, and then it was okay, Kamala Harris is the candidate now. It just changed again overnight. Anything their content creator says, they will echo without any critical thought or breakdown of their own, because they trust that individual. They want to be like that individual, so they copy and emulate. And so when it comes to something like Doc, they just want to watch him play games. They don't give a fuck about any of the, questionable behavior he might have engaged in. They'll always come up with a rationalization, even if that rationalization is an insane conspiracy theory that people are just out to get Dr. Disrespect because he was telling the woke mob what's what. It's gibberish. Too fucking old for this shit. Asks, what do you think about the chances of Arteta bottling the Premiership title even after City are likely to get a points deduction, meaning they should be out the title race? Well, there's a lot to unpack in there, as they say in progressive circles. First of all, Man City aren't going to get a points deduction. I can't believe anybody actually thinks that would be the case. So many rules have been bent and twisted for them historically. I mean, even if it was 3 points, I'd be amazed. But I don't think they'll get a points deduction. It's going to be a fine, and it's going to be a fine spread out over, whatever. Or they might, the worst case scenario, they won't get a points deduction in the moment. They'll get a points deduction for next season. And it's like, oh, okay, so you start 6-9 points behind. It's not going to make any difference. Man City will still be one of the favourites for the title. The other part of it, will Arteta bottle the Premiership title? They're already bottling it now before your very eyes. It's the one thing you can bank on Arsenal to do, and that's bottle it, which is a shame because I really like this version of Arsenal. I like Arteta. I like what he does in terms of football and how he sets up his team and how they go through the phases. I love how he's developed young talent and seems to be very protective and quite intelligent about how he utilizes them. I also think he's built a pretty good squad. He's somehow even breathed life into Kai Havertz, which I didn't think was fucking possible. So, Arteta is a good manager, but unfortunately, in big games, They do. They bottle it. I'll just also add, in that Man City game where Haaland threw the ball at, was it Gabriel's head at the end of the full time when they got the late equaliser? Absolutely any other player for any other team would have been suspended for that. That's unsportsmanlike conduct at best. Throwing a ball at a player is usually constituted as a red card offence, so he should have missed some games. But once again, the apparatus around Man City is too strong. You can't even criticise them. You know they're in a very similar position to where United are, and it's probably going to take either this fair play ruling going heavily against them, or Guardiola leaving in protest and taking Haaland with him to whatever club he joins to. It's going to take something like that before you're ever really going to be able to sort of see the cracks in Man City again. So I don't... The Premier League has always done this. It always has a darling that they let get away with murder. It was United for many years. Remember, there was one year they let United withdraw from, I think it was the FA Cup, but it might have been the League Cup. But they let them withdraw from a domestic trophy to go and play in the World Club Cup. We're just not playing. We're not entering into it. They just withdrew, devaluing the tournament. And the FA just let them. When you're big enough, you sort of get away with fucking murder in the Premier League. Once you're the Premier League darling, you can sort of do whatever the fuck you want. United have had that privilege. Liverpool have had that privilege. City have had that privilege. Maybe to a lesser extent Arsenal. There's generally a London bias in the league. Chelsea certainly have enjoyed a lot of fucking dispensation, let's say. Remember, when Abramovich bought them, I know it's very vogue to talk about oligarchs and Russian money now, but when Abramovich bought Chelsea, everybody knew that was some dodgy bullshit, right? So anyway, they will bottle the league. They're not winning the league this year. It's Liverpool or City again for me. I think Arne Slot or Sloot. It's Arne Slot, but I like the idea of calling him a Sloot. Arne Slot has done a fantastic job and actually is going to reap the benefits of the Klopp rebuild. The rebuild Klopp started with the midfield. So yeah, it's and again, we want to talk about managers breathing life back into players. Absolutely, turning Gakpo into some sort of left winger, making him look like a capable fucking goal scoring threat. Hats off to you, mate. By the way, I just realised I didn't answer all of Carv's questions because I was going to talk a little bit about Ten Hag getting fired. And I came round to the fact that his position was untenable and it was inevitable he had to go in the end. They should have got rid of him after the FA Cup, even though it would have been outrageous. That was what they should have done. And they didn't, and they chose not to do it. And ultimately, one of the things that I think Erik Ten Hag made a rod for his own back with, he was super combative with the press. Now, it's fine if you're Sir Alex Ferguson or Sam Allardyce and your jobs are, or Roy Hodgson, and your jobs are absolutely fucking cemented, as in you are unimpeachable because of what you've achieved relative to that fan base and board's expectations. You can come out and tell the media it's sticking up their arse every week. Erik Ten Hag was a losing manager in a club that is been falling behind from being the best in the country, the best in Europe, and it's been falling further and further behind its local rivals and its historic rivals to the point of embarrassment. We all remember the 7-0. How many Man United managers would get to keep their job historically if you lost 7-0 to Liverpool? 7-0. It just wouldn't happen back in the day. That would be an instant dismissal. You were gone the next day. But, Erik Ten Hag would come out and give it the Billy Big Bollocks and act like he was fucking vintage Mourinho. And he wasn't any of those things. And unfortunately, the media, as we know from other content I do, they're petulant. They're childish. Every time you fucking, push at them and nibble at them, they will use their platform to fuck you. And they did. And by the way, I'll also just add, his signings, not good. His signings have been garbage. He spent money. He spent like $500 million on trash that hasn't worked out. And, on top of that, I'll also add, he's let players that have no business being at Man United and aren't working for him, he's let them stay there and fuck him over. Because I'll just say this, his biggest failure for me as a manager When PSG wanted Rashford, that's an insta-sell for me. That's an insta-sell. The problem Ten Hag had was when he got back into top 4 and won the League Cup, that season was predicated on Rashford punching beyond. He was playing the best he'd ever played in any point in his career. He was scoring a goal a game. He was fucking insane, right? And that pushed him artificially up the league. After that, Rashford, he was back to DUIs, missing training, missing meetings, doesn't track back, doesn't do any tracking, languidly just walking around the pitch. Looks like he's not there. So I'd have sold Rashford immediately. I'd have got rid of him. Rashford's absolutely fucked Ten Hag. He's one of the biggest reasons Ten Hag's fired right now. Obviously, as well, the Casemiro deal was fucking dog shit, but I called that one. So, you know, you paid, what was it, like 70, 80 million for 6 months, the last of the summer wine from Casemiro's failing knees. I mean, that'll go down historically as one of the worst deals in the league, honestly, in my opinion. Because I know Casemiro banged in 2 the other day against Leicester for fucking Ruud van Horselrooy. But, I mean, like, Casemiro has just been a spent force. Like, a real spent force. A fraction of himself. And yeah, listen, Anthony, but I have to be quiet because Newcastle are sniffing around Anthony. Apparently we're going to sell Anthony Gordon and then get Anthony Shitlord. It's alright, I'm trying not to fucking think about it, mate. Anyway, that was the answer to the second part of your question, Carv. Eric Ten Hag had to go. All the campaign promises that Kamala has made so far, what do you think will actually be implemented? I mean, I've got to be honest, Alfredo. I don't even know how I would answer that. I mean, because ultimately right now, a lot of the campaign promises that are being made are promises that are being made to simply get her over the line and not really reflective of Kamala's views. 2019 Kamala Harris is the real Kamala Harris. I absolutely believe that. That was the one that said she would ban fracking. That was the one that was talking about, you know, expanding the big Green New Deal and all of that stuff. That's the realistic reflection. Oh, yeah, the gun buyback, sorry. Yeah, she talked about doing a mandatory buyback for guns, and particularly assault rifles. That's the real Kamala Harris. Now, what she's saying now is, I've revised my position on all of those things. It's kind of convenient because we're in the middle of an election. This is what I always say. The problem is we know exactly who Trump is. And we know when people say he's a Hitler and a fascist and he's going to put you in camps and kill everyone and the world's going to end. We had 4 years of it and it was fine. So we know that's not true. Kamala Harris, we know her positions from 2019 and they aren't her positions now. And that's a cause for concern because if you're an independent, you know who Trump is. You either vibe with that or you don't. But you don't really know who Kamala is. And so what will be the things she will implement? I don't know. I would be very surprised if there wasn't another flip-flop on the fracking issue because she was very vocal about it in the past. Certainly, whoever wins that tips tax thing, the no taxes on tips is going to get put forward. Both parties are proponents of that now. But I mean, in terms of big substantial policy, I don't even know what her big substantial policies are. Still. There's the starter loan for first-time home buyers, I guess. That could be a game changer. But the problem with that is you need homes to buy. There's a home shortage. And you can't build new homes because of the red tape. And then you've got the employment market to think about and what's going on there. So that could be good. Helping people buy a home seems important. But you have to really dial down on the details there because you've got just as much chance of inflating the housing market. So anyway, we will see. I mean, given Trump's background in real estate, who would I trust more to partner up with private building companies, real estate companies, and cutting red tape and understanding where the waste goes on the bureaucracy? I mean, again, I would imagine Donald Trump would do a better job of that, but whatever. And one thing that'll definitely happen is they'll have a run at packing the court, the Supreme Court, obviously. They'll try and get a vote going to expand the Supreme Court. I had another dickhead tell me, he never even said that. No one's even said that. No Democrats have said that. It's come up a number of times, and so that's probably something that will likely happen. They'll want to get 3 more Dem justices in, so, you know, we'll see. But honestly, I think it's, like, she has the potential to be the most progressive president in American history. She absolutely does. She holds a lot of positions that mainstream Democrats don't hold. You might think that's a good thing. Again, I don't care. I ain't got a dog in this particular fight. I'm just chuckling from the fucking sidelines. You're not going to see me crying on election night if Kamala gets in. You're not going to see me cry hysterically if Trump gets in. You know? It's just America. It's America, guys. Lads, it's Tottenham. You know what I mean? So we shall see. We shall see. Next up, with regards to the Raiders, when does the horror end? Ah, yes. It's looking so bad. I'm not even sure I want to go to Vegas this year. Don't. This season has made me so sick to my stomach with what's been going on at the Raiders. I haven't even logged in to change my fantasy team because it's just going to trigger me. So I know Adams going was inevitable, but like trading him now. Fucking hell. I don't want to hear anyone ever say I was harsh on Minshew again. I don't want to fucking ever hear it again. Because on the fucking Raiders subreddit, right, somebody put a picture of Minshew. This was in like week 3 when we won our first game or something. And there was a thread, and it was a picture of that cunt. And somebody in the thread was titled, "Some of you guys owe him an apology." No, I don't. He is fucking trash. He is trash. Absolute, not fit to wear the fucking Raiders jersey at all. But now he doesn't even have the piece. I mean, I have been watching us stuck in a perpetual rebuild, it feels, since 2004. Like, that's mental. It's like 20 years of rebuild I've been watching. And I'm just so over it now. I'm just so over it. Everything is a travesty at the Raiders all of the time. So I'm done. I got to be honest. I haven't even watched the last couple of Raiders games. I've just caught the highlights. I'm just like so out on it. It just genuinely upsets me because like I'd got a bit more in on the Raiders. Because obviously I can't really support Newcastle now. I won't pay to watch their games and stuff. So I've got a bit more in on the Raiders. But like, yeah, we're just garbage. We're always garbage. Call your shot, assuming the esports awards have the Jamal Khashoggi Memorial Journalist of the Year award. Who is the winner? Jake Lucky, Wooloo, or do you have your own wild card? Would your pick have been willing to go to Saudi to accept in person? So yeah, the esports awards still haven't named whether or not they're going to be doing the Journalist of the Year award for obvious reasons because of the negative PR it's going to generate. And for me, let's say, if the award was serious, it's James Fudge this year and it's not even close. I say that being a journalist this year, I kind of put my feet up a little bit. And, Kevin Hitt's out there still doing good work, but I don't think he's been as prolific as previous years. Jacob Wolf has quit. The awards don't recognise Duncan as a journalist because interviews and podcasts only count when Ashley Kang does them. So unfortunately, we are getting increasingly likely to hit the singularity where Jake Lucky or it'll be Wooloo or the other one, Amantium, the one I can't pronounce him. It'll be one of those guys. It'll basically be someone working at Sheep Esports. It's going to be someone working at Sheep Esports, and at that point, you may as well take the award out back and fucking shoot it. So, yeah, obviously, no real journalist is even going to accept a nomination, let alone the award itself. So that's what you're kind of left with. But equally as well, I'm not going to grandstand. I've told them privately, don't nominate me. Just don't. If you do the award, don't nominate me because I'll publicly decline the nomination. But, I mean, I'm not going to be one of those people who's going to, tweet, I probably would have had the award, but I turned it down, guys, just to let everybody know. I'm not going to do that either. Whoever wins it, let them have their fucking moment. It's fine. We all know it's compromised, but they, just let them have it. Listen, it'll mean a lot to someone like Wooloo, shit as he is at his job. It'll mean a lot to Sheep Esports, shit as they are as a publication with no editorial standards. Arse Boyle is now an editor over there, by the way. It'll mean a lot to Jake Lucky if he was to get it. Finally, I'm a journalist. Wait, am I a journalist? I always forget. For the purposes of disclosure, do I need to be a journalist or not be a journalist? I don't know. Right? So it is what it is. Next up, Duel Me 123. Hi, Richard. I know you're from a sports background and love your desk grenades. But as someone that went to chess and is coming back to mainstream esports, it was hard for me to relate. In chess, the desk and commentary just blends together, and analysis is the main focus, both of the position and the practical implications, with narratives being tied in where appropriate. I find most grenades in chess feel pretty forced, and always loved the commentary team that give good analysis but present in an understandable and educational way. Coming back after so many years, I find some esports broadcasts have depth, but it's not presented in an educational way that gives me clarity. Instead of a hand wavy, I would like to see more aggression from X team. I'm looking for what plans, picks are available to carry out that aggression. If a mistake occurred, what concrete weaknesses does it open up for the team, and how can it be punished? In your opinion, is there room for a desk segment commentary focused on what I mentioned above? The short answer is no. Short answer is no, because chess isn't like real-time esports. But let me elaborate. I don't, by the way, I'll also say this, I don't think esports should be aspiring to be like chess. I think chess will always have a bottleneck of how big the game can get, which will obviously fluctuate depending on societal trends and broadcasting methods and personalities and everything else. But ultimately, the type of person that is into chess and follows chess and can understand chess on a high level, there's not many of them. And so, ultimately, we want to be more like US sports. That's what works. And so, look, you can't really do this in Dota. You can't watch a game of Dota in a best of 3 and go, okay, well, what plans and picks are available for them to carry out next time? Well, we don't know what the opponent's going to ban. We don't know what hero pool the players can play. That information's obfuscated. Yeah, you can track down their Dota buff, but everyone's got alts. People play, in secret equally as well. I mean, you are limited. You are in Dota. It's not like chess where you have like set openings and that might lock you into strategies somewhere down the road. In Dota, it's pretty flexible, particularly at the laning phase, which kind of feels like it matters less and less these days. So it's not a direct analog. You can't really compare that. The reason I do the desk grenades and like toss stuff out and let the analysts like either jump on it or fucking react to it or whatever it might be is because we need to find something to fill the space of that would, if we were chess, there would be a level of granularity that we could fill that space with. And I'm sure the audience would be very appreciative for it. That level of granularity isn't there in something like Counter-Strike, by way of a for instance. So what do? We can say, well, what Malbs has to do is he needs to hit more headshots. Yeah, that's really right. We can do that. We can talk about who's good at what positions on a map. We can talk about it. But people don't change up their positions. It's not fluid in that sense. If you're the B anchor and you're having a bad game, you don't get tagged out and somebody else comes in, or you switch positions with someone else. That rarely happens in Counter-Strike. Meanwhile, in something like sports, that's just a normal thing. Someone's having a bad game, you sub them out. Someone can't play a position very well, you move them to a different position. All of these things are why mainstream sports and things like chess, we just got to view esports as its own thing. You have to view it as its own thing. And the only thing that fits from the outside world, the only thing I would borrow is the sports desks that are exciting, that talk about narratives. Everybody can appreciate narrative. Everybody can appreciate narrative. I don't think chess is a particularly narrative-heavy scene because, yeah, while we can talk about players and their interesting backgrounds and certain characters, like you might have crazy Bobby Fischer or whatever, that can all be talked about. But in the moment, in the games, those things don't kind of matter. Narratively, we can watch a player have a good map, carry that form forward. Like, for instance, with Glaive at the Esport event with Ents. It was the first trophy he'd lifted in 4 years. It was his first, MVP in, 4 years. He absolutely popped off and carried his team in a best-of-5 final and actually did it with pieces that were all new to him, 2 new pickups that he hadn't worked before and all of this stuff. So what do you focus on the desk? You focus on the narrative. You focus on the narrative because everybody at home can appreciate the narrative. We did some player analysis too. We did highlights. We did some numbers. We had Maui talk us through some rounds. We did some good individual technical analysis. But unfortunately, boom, the narrative makes more sense for the average esports desk. Dota is closer to chess than like a CS or a Rocket League or something like that. So you do get to have those granular technical discussions where you can get into the weeds a little bit, but it's still nothing compared to chess. So I don't think these things are analogous, and I think I genuinely believe the way I think about doing esports desks, I think I'm right in terms of this is the balance and this is what works for the industry that we're in. So I hope that answers your question, even though I disagree with the premise essentially. With the major right round the corner, do you think there will be a top 10 team to surprise everyone and bomb the major, bomb out of the major would be better, and or not qualify? I feel like Copenhagen was pretty tame and no huge team shit themselves, aside from Liquid, I guess, but they clearly weren't good enough at the time. Liquid are definitely one of the teams that could bomb out and just like not be there. I mean, they feel like a paper tiger right now. Like, I don't know how much longer Yekindar can be allowed to keep getting away with this, but he keeps getting away with it. So until somebody stops him, I guess that's what we've got. So I could definitely see that. Who else do I think? I mean, it's not controversial. Like, Fury is another one. I just think Fury are a joke. Still, I don't even care about that run they just had in Rio. I think Fury are fucking bad. I think Virtus Pro as well. Virtus Pro kind of suck too. So, pick any of them, honestly. VP's probably a very good shout. They are inexplicably bad at the moment. Next one. Next question. What is the funniest piece of news story you saw as of late? Let me tell you. I was thinking about doing an episode of I Hate It here for Christmas, and if Sam just doesn't do it, I'm just going to bite the bullet and replace Sam with one of my funny friends, maybe from real life. Because I have two good friends that are really, really funny, like wicked funny in the same way like Sam is. And you don't know them because they've never been involved in any of this stuff. And what I've been doing is I've been sort of nudging them gently, like, why don't we do a podcast? It'd be kind of cool, right? And then it's like they'll never get bored of just hanging out and talking shit with me because they're my real life friends that do that anyway. So they won't have as good a laugh as Sam, but they do have a similar mindset. So anyway, I've been pulling some stuff together for like a I Hate It Here Christmas special. If Sam wants to do it, obviously he's always got first dibs. It's as much about him as it was about me. But I did bookmark some ridiculous headlines. Oh, here you go. I shouldn't even laugh at this. This is sad. But it's the headline. It's the way they've worded the headline, isn't it? Right? Obviously, I love animals. But this would have been prime. You could get an AI. We should just get an AI Sam and just imagine how Sam would have reacted to this one, which is the world's fattest cat, Crumbs, dies weeks after going a feline fat camp, right? And there's lots of material there, isn't it? Because first of all, on a serious level, fuck those owners for letting their cat get so fat that it was so unhealthy that his lifespan was fucking shortened, right? And people are going to go, oh, you're laughing at dead cats, fuck you. And then someone will like dox me and like someone will come here and kill me or something. So I have to include that part. But also, reasons why it's kind of funny is, first of all, they sort of died after doing the camp. And I don't know what it is, right? But I've always found it kind of inherently amusing, like when people, like if you get healthy and that's when you drop dead, there's kind of like an insane cosmic, like that's what, that might happen to me. And by the way, if that does happen to me, and like one day you see me and everyone's going, wow, Richard must have hit that Ozempic shit or whatever, you know, and I'm back down to like, 190 pounds or whatever, like, svelte again, I've had the hair plugs, and then I drop dead. You've got my permission to just laugh at that, it being inherently funny. Right, that's totally fine, right? Like, you've got my permission. But also as well, like, these pictures, like, come on, bruh. How am I not going to laugh at that? First of all, you fucking half drowned this poor bastard down in the bottom right. Like, welcome to Feline Fat Camp, sploosh. That's just fucking unreal. Then that one, that's like what happens to me when I'm like just on a fucking chaise lounge or something after a few drinks. That top right one is, that's my spirit animal, so to speak. And then just his face there, poor Crumbs, like, oh no, all I want to do is eat treats and smell catnip. And now he's gone. Crumbs is gone forever. So, you know, it's not really funny. It's not the funniest headline. But all of the pageantry and trappings around it made me laugh. I think there was another one. Let me just see. I did pick out another one here. I mean, to be fair, the New York Post probably is just cheating, isn't it? This is obviously coming on Belly of the Beast. But J.D. Vance plays Magic the Gathering, and his favourite card could reveal GOP candidates' dark political ambitions. And his favourite card is Yawgmoth's Bargain, where you skip your draw step, but if you pay 1 life, you can draw a card. Well, there you go. Listen, if I'd known that's disqualifying. That is, like. By the way, also, that is a banger card. Even I remember that one. I used to play Magic when that was in that one. That's a fucking sick card. So there was that. Was there another one? I'm not going to show this on stream in case it's a bit risque for Twitch, but also, underpaid flight attendants turn to stripping and eating passengers' leftovers. They can't survive. All right. So yeah, more on that in Belly of the Beast. Not that one. That's just going to have to be on I Hate It Here, probably. Maybe it isn't. Maybe we'll never. Oh, here it is! This is the one! Shit, it was New York Post again. He's cheating. I've got it. This is the one. Again, probably shouldn't laugh at it or something on some level, but also isn't like everything kind of inherently funny and absurd. I don't know. I've read too much Thomas Ligotti to ever go back, so there we are. Okay, boom. Russian fat Leonardo DiCaprio sent to fight at Ukraine front after weight gain spoils likeness to A-lister. Now, do think conscription is a moral evil and all of that jazz, but also like the what you have to fucking kind of metabolize mentally is apparently Russia had a guy that was fat Leonardo DiCaprio, and because he looked like fat Leonardo DiCaprio, they were like, yeah, you can go around, you can just walk around Russia just looking like fat Leonardo DiCaprio, right? And then, because he had too much of the Gary Good times, fucking eating his, well, yeah, it's great looking like Leonardo DiCaprio. Me, they all know I'm not Leonardo DiCaprio, but because I look a bit like a fat version of Leonardo DiCaprio, you know what I get? Fat supermodels. I don't know how it works. Anyway, he does that, and then he gets too fat, and then the Russian government went, right, yeah, let's have a look at you on the scales. 300 pounds. Well, listen, you're too fat to be a fat Leonardo DiCaprio, so you know what your perfect choice of fucking job is? Off to the front lines to be a soldier. A fat soldier! I mean, also, as well, look, that's a sketch of him. That's a sketch of him there. That's what he's turned into. Like, for fuck's sake. Oh, no, that can't be a picture. That's a drawing, mate. No, come on. That's not a photo. That's a drawing. Anyway, so there you go. That was the headline. That was the one. That was what got me. Final question. Jester, Kurt Cobain or Lane Staley? So this is obviously the lead singer of Nirvana or the lead singer of Alice in Chains. And so, super easy for me. Lane Staley, probably not even close. I did have a huge love for Nirvana when I was younger, but obviously the thing that Alice in Chains are the superior band. Lane Staley had the superior vocal range. Their songs have lasted the test of time even better, really. So, also, just while this is going on, while I'm trying to answer the serious question, my head mod, who is meant to be a coder, has, instead of posting fat Leonardo DiCaprio, he's just posted a screenshot from his own what appears to be testing tools in Deadlock. So don't know what's gone on there. But anyway, so apparently it's a photo of fat Leonardo DiCaprio. I guess this is where the stream is going to end, is it? Is this what we're doing? There he is. Still looks like a drawing, mate. I mean, how is he that smooth? How is he that smooth, man? Anyway, so yeah, Lane Staley, Alice in Chains are goated. Their Unplugged session is probably the best Unplugged session done by any band that did Unplugged, including Nirvana, who was pretty high up. And there's a reason for that, and it's because Lane Staley was a genius taken from us by the cruelties of addiction and depression, super sad. But one of the things I'll say is there's a new generation now. It's kind of cool, actually. I'm watching Zoomers and Gen Alphas discover grunge, in particular Lane Staley, and in particular Alice in Chains. A lot of it is to do with his vocal range. There's this TikTok short that's got millions of views now, where it's like Lane Staley is the only singer that could hit this note, and it's in like Man in the Box or something like that. So it's good. I think. I think Jerry Cantrell was releasing an album as well recently. I think it got delayed. I think the physical release of it got delayed. But, look, there is no Alice in Chains without Lane. And to be fair, Jerry Cantrell has pretty much said as much as well. But they did everything they could for him. They were a good band. This wasn't like, by the way, what happened with Scott Weiland, where Scott Weiland, who, like the DeLeo brothers in Stone Temple Pilots, were like, you know what, listen, we can just put the band on hold while you get healthy. We don't have to record albums. Like, we've had all these breakout hits. We've got all this radio play. We've sold a fuck ton of records. We made a bunch of money. It's all good, dude. Just get healthy and stop doing heroin. And then when eventually his position in the band became untenable, sometime after, I think it was Tiny Music from the Vatican gift shop, was the last album I think they all recorded together. Basically, they said, look, we can't keep doing this. Yeah, we feel like we're enabling you think. So he left and joined Velvet Revolver with Slash. It was basically Slash's Snake Pit. And Scott Weiland came together to make a band. And Slash was just like, oh, you like heroin, do you? Fucking great, innit? Get on that, lad. And then that was the end of that, and Scott Weiland's dead now. So, Anyway, so, yeah, and by the way, who put it up in there? Stone Temple Pilots underrated. There's only Eddie Vedder left. Any new there it is. Now, Sue, any thoughts on the new Linkin Park? I mean, I heard the clips. I saw the viral clips on Twitter with the lady singing, and she's got her own style, but I don't know. Chester's Chester, you know what I mean? I didn't even like Linkin Park. I want to say that. I used to shit on Linkin Park back in the day, and when my friends used to bring them up and be like, oh, you must love Linkin Park. I'm like, what the fuck? They deliberately don't swear in a song so they can sell their records to kids, and it's got all, like, anime cartoons on it. Fuck these fucking losers. Fuck these losers. Give me Machine Head. But as I've mellowed out, they wrote some really good songs. They were all super talented musicians. Chester Bennington was a lovely guy and had an incredible voice. And so, yeah, I mean, it was obviously a real tragedy, what happened. So, when one-offs die, you just can't really replace them. You know what I mean? It's like, you can call, as a Misfits fan, you can call yourself the Misfits. We all know you're kind of not without Danzig. We all know. And Danzig didn't even die. He just had enough of the fucking Misfits. But, it's kind of like that for me. I think, essentially, you should just come up with something else, call it something else, you know what I mean? Yeah, Mark Lanigan's gone, don't get me started. They're all dead. They're all bloody dead. All my heroes, all the people I loved are dead. Mark Lanigan, Screaming Trees, dead. They're all dead. Right, and on that note,